Preface and Introduction of The Pirate's Own Book. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Pirate's Own Book by Charles Elms. Preface. In the mind of the mariner, there is a superstitious horror connected with the name of pirate, and there are few subjects that interest and excite the curiosity of mankind generally, more than the desperate exploits, foul doings, and diabolical career of these monsters in human form. A piratical crew is generally formed of the desperadoes and renegades of every clime and nation. The pirate, from the perilous nature of his occupation, when not cruising on the ocean, the great highway of nations, selects the most lonely isles of the sea for his retreat, or secretes himself near the shores of rivers, bays, and lagoons of thickly wooded and uninhabited countries, so that if pursued he can escape to the woods and mountain glens of the interior. The islands of the Indian Ocean and the east and west coasts of Africa, as well as the West Indies, have been their haunts for centuries, and vessels navigating the Atlantic and Indian Oceans are often captured by them, the passengers and crew murdered, the money and most valuable part of the cargo plundered, the vessel destroyed, thus obliterating all trace of their unhappy fate, and leaving friends and relatives to mourn their loss from the inclemencies of the elements when they were butchered in cold blood by their fellow men, who, by practically adopting the maxim that dead men tell no tales, enable themselves to pursue their diabolical career with impunity. The pirate is truly fond of women and wine, and when not engaged robbing keeps maddened with intoxicating liquors, and passes his time in debauchery, singing old songs with choruses like, "Drain, drain the bowl, each fearless soul, let the world wag as it will, let the heavens growl, let the devil howl, drain, drain the deep bowl and fill." Thus his hours of relaxation are passed in wild and extravagant frolics amongst the lofty forests of palms and spicy groves of the torrid zone, and amidst the aromatic and beautiful flowering vegetable productions of that region. He has fruits delicious to taste, and as companions the unsophisticated daughters of Africa and the Indies. It would be supposed that his wild career would be one of delight, but the apprehension and foreboding of the mind when under the influence of remorse are powerful, and every man, whether civilized or savage, has interwoven in his constitution a moral sense, which secretly condemns him when he has committed an atrocious action, even when he is placed in situations which raise him above the fear of human punishment, for conscience, the torturer of the soul unseen, does fiercely brandish a sharp scourge within. Severe decrees may keep our tongues in awe, but to our minds what edicts can give law? Even you yourself to your own breast shall tell your crimes, and your own conscience be your hell. With the name of pirate is also associated ideas of rich plunder, caskets of buried jewels, chests of gold ingots, bags of outlandish coins secreted in lonely out-of-the-way places, or buried about the wild shores of rivers and unexplored sea-coasts, near rocks and trees bearing mysterious marks indicating where the treasure was hid. And as it is his invariable practice to secrete and bury his booty, and from the perilous life he leads, being often killed or captured, he can never revisit the spot again. Immense sums remain buried in those places and are irrecoverably lost. Search is often made by persons who labor in anticipation of throwing up with their spade and pickaxe gold bars, diamond crosses sparkling amongst the dirt, bags of golden doubloons, and chests wedged close with moidores, ducats, and pearls. But although great treasures lie hid in this way, it seldom happens that any is so recovered. Introduction. By the universal law of nations, robbery or forcible depredation upon the high seas, animo furandi, is piracy. The meaning of the phrase high seas embraces not only the waters of the ocean, which are out of sight of land, but the waters on the sea-coast below low water mark, whether within the territorial boundaries of a foreign nation or of a domestic state. Blackstone says that the main sea or high sea begins at low water mark. But between the high water mark and low water mark, where the tide ebbs and flows, the common law and the admiralty have divisum imperium, an alternate jurisdiction, one upon the water when it is full sea, the other upon the land when it is ebb. He doubtless here refers to the waters of the ocean on the sea-coast, and not in creeks and inlets. Lord Hale says that the sea is either that which lies within the body of a country, or without. That which lies without the body of a country is called the main sea or ocean. So far, then, as regards the states of the American Union, high seas may be taken to mean that part of the ocean which washes the sea-coast, and was without the body of any country, according to the common law, and so far as regards foreign nations, any waters on their sea-coasts below low water mark. Piracy is an offence against the universal law of society, a pirate being, according to Sir Edward Coke, hostis humani generis. As therefore he has renounced all of the benefits of society and government, and has reduced himself to the savage state of nature, by declaring war against all mankind must declare war against him, so that every community has a right by the rule of self-defense to inflict that punishment upon him which every individual would, in a state of nature, otherwise have been entitled to do, for any invasion of his person or personal property. By various statutes in England and the United States, other offences are made piracy. Thus, if a subject of either of those nations commit any act of hostility against a fellow subject on the high seas, under colour of a commission from any foreign power, this act is piracy. So if any captain of any vessel, or mariner, run away with the vessel or the goods, or yield them up to a pirate voluntarily, or if any seaman lay violent hands upon his commander, to hinder him from fighting in defence of the ship or goods committed to his charge, or make a revolt in the ship, these offences are acts of piracy by the laws of the United States and England. In England, by the statute of 8 George I, chapter 24, the trading or correspondence with known pirates, or the forcibly boarding any merchant vessel, though without seizing her or carrying her off, and destroying any of the goods on board, are declared to be acts of piracy, and by the statute 18 George II, chapter 30, any natural-born subject or denizen who in time of war shall commit any hostilities at sea against any of his fellow subjects, or shall assist an enemy on that element, is liable to be punished as a pirate. By statute of George II, chapter 25, the ransoming of any neutral vessel which had been taken by the captain of a private ship of war is declared piracy. By the Act of Congress, April 30th, 1790, if any person upon the high seas or in any river, haven, or bay, out of the jurisdiction of any particular state, commit murder or robbery, or any other offence which, if committed within the body of a country, would, by the laws of the United States, be punishable by death, such offender is to be deemed a pirate. By the Act of Congress, 1820, chapter 113, if any citizen of the United States, being of the crew of any foreign vessel, or any person being of the crew of any vessel owned in whole or part by any citizen of the United States, shall be engaged in the foreign slave trade, he shall be adjudged a pirate. Notwithstanding the expression used in this statute, the question, says Chancellor Kent, remains to be settled whether the act of being concerned in the slave trade would be adjudged piracy, within the code of international law. In England, by the Act of Parliament passed March 31st, 1824, the slave trade is also declared to be piracy. An attempt has been made to effect a convention between the United States and Great Britain by which it should be agreed that both nations should consider the slave trade as piratical, but this attempt has hitherto been unsuccessful. In the time of Richard III, by the laws of Oberon, all infidels were regarded as pirates and their property liable to seizure wherever found. By the law of nations, the taking of goods by piracy does not divest the actual owner of them. By the civil institutions of Spain and Venice, ships taken from pirates become the property of those who retake them. Piracy is everywhere pursued and punished with death, and pirates can gain no rights by conquest. It is of no importance for the purpose of giving jurisdiction in cases of piracy, on whom or where a piratical offence is committed. A pirate who is won by the law of nations may be tried and punished in any country where he may be found, for he is reputed to be out of the protection of all laws. But if the statute of any government declares an offence, committed on board one of their own vessels, to be piracy, such an offence will be punished exclusively by the nation which passes the statute. In England the offence was formerly cognizable only by the Admiralty Courts, which proceeded without a jury, in a method founded on the civil law. But by the statute of Henry VIII, chapter 15, it was enacted that piracy should be tried by commissioners, nominated by the Lord Chancellor, the indictment being first found by a grand jury of 12 men, and afterwards tried by another jury, as at common law. Among the commissioners there are always some of the common law judges. In the United States, pirates are tried before the Circuit Court of the United States. Piracy has been known from the remotest antiquity, for in the early days every small maritime state was addicted to piracy, and navigation was perilous. This habit was so general that it was regarded with indifference, and whether merchant, traveller, or pirate, the stranger was received with the rites of hospitality. Thus Nestor, having given Mentor and Telemachus a plenteous repast, remarks that the banquet being finished, it was time to ask his guests to their business. "Are you," demands the aged prince. Merchants destined to any port, or are you merely adventurers and pirates, who roam the seas without any place of destination, and live by rapine and ruin?